You may have heard the term stop choking that hammer or stop choking up on that hammer and not know exactly what that means. I'm going to explain that to you right now. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dirdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's dig into this. Before we get too far into this, I want to explain to you a hammer. There's a few different types of hammers. We'll just go over that real quick and then we'll get into choking up a hammer, why you should or shouldn't do it. The hammer consists of a handle, a grip, and a head. This is considered the face. This is considered the neck. The side of the hammer is called the cheek. The opening in the head that the handle slides into is called the eye, and this is the claw. Most hammers are created fairly equal, but there are some differences. Let's dig into that real quick, and then we'll get on to why you should or shouldn't choke up on a hammer. This particular hammer I've had for 30 years. It's hammered thousands upon thousands of nails for me. It's still a good hammer today, and I still use it today. This is a framing / demolition hammer, meaning that it has a waffle face and that the claw is predominantly straight off the back of the hammer. And the reason for that is for striking it between two pieces of wood to separate them, split them apart, knock it through drywall. This is a beautiful demolition hammer. I have retired it about 4 years ago. I still use it on occasion, but not as much as I used to. I really like this fiberglass handle. This is about a 19-ounce hammer. It's not marked on it, but by the feel of it, it's about a 19-ounce hammer. This is the hammer that I use for trim work and for paneling or anything like that. It is a smooth face hammer, and as you can see, there's a big difference in the claw. This claw is very curved. This claw will pull a nail a little bit better than this claw, but they're adequate. This one will pull a nail, a little more effort, but it'll pull it out. This one rolls them out pretty easy. This is the hammer that I've been using for probably about the last 5 years. I use it on a regular basis. I like this hammer. This is a 19-ounce. It's a nice swinging hammer. The I-beam construction for the handle, I really like that. It's all one piece, so you don't have to worry about a head coming off, anything like that. It also has some nail starting abilities right here, and it has a nail puller right here on the side that I kind of like, because sometimes you can't always get in. There's just not enough room to pull the nail, and this gives you a little bit better of a chance of getting those tough nails out. So when they refer to choking up on a hammer, is you're holding your hand way up here on the hammer. This is not a good way to get the full force that this hammer can deliver. You need to be holding the handle down here. You need to be holding it firmly so that it doesn't fly out of your hand, especially if you have a miss or something like that. This will deliver a good blow holding the handle down here. I can drive a framing nail 2 hits. Of course, that doesn't include the little tap to get it started. So I still today, after being in carpentry for 30 plus years, still choke up on a hammer. And I do it in various situations and for various reasons. The one reason that you would want to choke up on a hammer is control. You get a hold of this hammer right here, I have more control. I know where this head's gonna go exactly. If my fingers are in the way, I will choke up on this hammer and get my nail started. Once my nail is started, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to drive it. My hand is out of the way. I'm not worried about hitting my hand. You blast your thumb a couple of times with one of these things and you're going to be a little more cautious about starting nails. Let me show you what I'm talking about. What I have here is a 2-inch finished nail. Not a whole lot to get your fingers on, especially if there's trim in the way. You're going to be able to hold it with 2 fingers when you drive this in. So when I start to drive these, I'm going to choke up on the hammer. I'm going to hold it about right here. This gives me good control and allows me to start that without getting my fingers hit or even worrying about hitting my fingers, because I can control the hammer. Once I have it started, depending on where I'm at, I don't want to bash up a piece of trim or something like that. I'm going to move my hand back on this and drive it. Oh, and hope that doesn't happen. That's where the control comes in. Finished nails are not quite as strong. You can obviously pull this nail back up. The neck of the hammer is very good for pulling the nail back up. And then we're going to drive it home. Now what I have is a 2-inch common nail. And I'm going to use my framing hammer for this. This does have a waffle face. This is to help the face of the hammer more stay in contact with the nail, even if you don't make a perfect hit. It increases, if you're a golfer, they would call it the sweet spot on the club. So basically it makes the entire face of the hammer the sweet spot. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to choke way up on this handle and I'm going to start this nail. Once I get it started and I get my hand out of the way, we'll go ahead, we'll get it back here and knock it in. And what I have here is a framing nail, much bigger bodied, much easier to drive, less likely to bend it. And I'm going to start it the exact same way. I'm going to choke up on this hammer, I'm going to get a couple taps on it and get it in there. Then I'm going to move back. And I'm going to drive it home. So other than starting nails, there is one other situation where I will choke up on a hammer. And sometimes you find yourself in a precarious situation where you are using your hammer with your left hand. My left hand is nowhere near as coordinated as my right hand at using this hammer. I know this. So when I wind up having to drive a nail with my left hand, I'm quite normally standing on something, holding on to something, and driving the nail. If I'm driving a nail left-handed and my right hand is supporting me, I will choke up on this hammer and drive it that way because I have better control. You have better control the further up the handle, less power. So it doesn't matter if I have to hit it 8 times, I'd rather do that than hit my thumb. I have hit my thumb so many times operating this hammer left-handed because your hand has to be supporting you while you're driving the hammer, standing on a ladder, standing on a ledge, standing on a stem wall, whatever that you're doing. You just can't get in there with your right hand. Even turning the ladder around, you just can't do it. This hammer sometimes has to go in your left hand. So in closing, guys, it's not always bad to choke up on a hammer. You are not going to get the power out of it that it can deliver if you're holding it down here at the end of the grip. You will get a ton more control. If you're new at using a hammer, choke up on it. Slightly move your hand down little by little as you feel more comfortable with it, and as you get better with it, you can move down and use the full force of the hammer. Just make sure your other hand is nowhere near in the way. That's all we got for this time. If you'd like to get an amazing shirt like this, I've put a link down in the description to our store. You can get t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee cups, all kinds of cool stuff. I'd appreciate it if you'd check it out. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. And remember, always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon.